Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money Down Pod NFL reaction show. That is Sean White. I am Kayvon Izami. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. Follow my guy Sean White at Dumpster Fire Fan. Big Jaguars fan there. Follow me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports. We thank all of you for joining us today on this amazing week after just one of the most incredible weekends. I know you've heard this all across sports. I mean, all across sports talk the last couple of days, but you just have to mention how incredible of a weekend it was, capped off by the most incredible game that I have witnessed. Sean, how was your weekend? What did you think about these games?
That was an amazing weekend. I mean, it was the best weekend of NFL playoff football for sure. Like,
No
unless
doubt.
your team was one of them in it, like in 2017, the Jags were in there, so that was a great type weekend for me. Those weekends, but outside of your own team being in there, if you're just a casual watcher watching games, this was the best weekend to watch football. Period. I mean, that was such a high. It was great to watch. And I can't wait to talk about this stuff because it's going to be an amazing 4 games we're going to cover right here. I mean, just the best football weekend you could imagine.
No doubt about it. The first time in NFL history where all 4 divisional games ended on the last play. Not like the last draw, the last play, which is remarkable. The ratings have come out today and it is triple of what it was last year. I mean, it's insane what the NFL is doing right now. I think it's actually double. But the ratings are massive. It's just the NFL is just it is making its mark like it always does, times a bunch. So it, it's it's phenomenal for us football fans. It's fun for me and Sean. Can you see me?
You're lagging out. I don't know if it's me or you. I think it's you.
It's me. Okay.
This,
Can
yeah,
can you see me right now? We're good.
yeah, you're good right now. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
sorry
that
about
too.
that, folks.
Let's hope that doesn't happen again here. But anyways, it was a phenomenal weekend. So we're gonna get right into it. We want to hear from you guys, your thoughts on how things went. If you're a Bills fan, I feel for you. I really, really do. We're gonna talk about that. If you're a Packers fan, we're really gonna talk about that. And I really want to hear from Packers fans. And we're gonna get into this in a minute. But this to me is the most fascinating topic of how things ended, what's going on with Rodgers. I want to hear from you Packers fans, so I'll explain that more when we get there. But Sean, let's start off, man. Bills, Chiefs. My opinion, greatest football game I've watched. What were your thoughts on that game? Just the floor is yours.
Yeah, that's my opinion as well. That was the best game I've ever seen. Period. Like of any sport, anything. That was the best game I've ever seen. That was amazing. We were honestly, I felt like even midday Sunday, we were probably going to end up leading this with the Rodgers Packers
Yeah.
thing. And then that show happened, and it was like, man, you got to talk about that to start with. 2 quarterbacks that are just on such a meteoric rise. It's going to be great to see them from now on. But that game, I've never seen that high of quarterback play between 2 opponents right there.
Yep.
We had the back and forth. That last minute and a half was just pure ecstasy when it comes to watching a game. Just the back and forth, the plays being made in such a short amount of time, the little situational awareness things you needed to go into that. It was amazing. And I'm with you. I got a feel for the Bills fans. Josh Allen played his heart out. There was nothing more he could do. He just didn't get the ball. It really did come down to a coin toss. And I don't know if we'll talk about overtime rules or anything like that, but it came down to a coin toss because whoever was getting that ball was going to score that
Oh,
that
easily.
first time.
Easily.
Mahomes, though, I've got to give Mahomes the most credit of everybody. That was crazy.
Yep.
13 seconds. And I know the Bills played that soft prevent and prevent defense prevents wins. I understand that. But to still do that in 13 seconds, get them into field goal range, just amazing. Everything about the game just encapsulated how great these 2 young quarterbacks are and really the changing of how NFL football is. I know a lot of people like to throw Brady and Manning around. Honestly, it was a different game back then, though.
Yep.
Even when offenses were coming up, defense still played a big part of that. That's a big reason why Manning lost as many as he did. Belichick always had the defense schemed ready to go.
Yep.
Really, in this situation, there was really nothing you could do. You were not stopping either one of these 2 quarterbacks. They were at the height of their powers with the command that they showed out there. Mahomes was on a mission. Josh Allen was on a mission. We saw very few punts. We saw a clean football, no turnovers. And at the end of the day, honestly, the slightly more experienced quarterback and honestly the most electric one won. But it was going to come down to who got the ball last. Mahomes did it, and that's what happened. It was a great game. I mean, just mind blowing, honestly.
Yeah, look, this will be a matchup that we get to watch as fans for years on end. This is the Brady Manning matchup, but honestly, times two because of exactly what you said with the offenses. It's going to be so offensive centric when we move forward in the NFL here. Those are going to be the games that we're going to see between those two guys moving forward. And real quick to Bills fans, I feel you. Like, it hurts. Look, my Falcons, which, by the way, nobody ever wants to talk about this, but my Falcons lost in overtime in a Super Bowl where they never got the ball first. And for some reason, that one never comes up when we're talking about these overtime rules. It's always the Chiefs. Brady won. The Chiefs-Patriots won back in 18 or whatever it was. And then this one. We lost too. We didn't get the ball. We lost the coin toss. Brady drove it right downfield. Won. I want to say really quickly to overtime, and then Sean, you can comment on that before I go further. You know, I hear all these people saying, don't bitch about the overtime rules because all the Bills had to do was get a stop. And honestly, in this instance, I agree with that because the fact that you couldn't stop them with 13 seconds left, that's an issue. And that's on McDermott, and McDermott screwed that up and Leslie Frazier with the play calling. But I also think it's a little just lame to say that, you know, because yes, that is after the fact to be able to say that. It's like, okay, yes, but when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes playing as well as he's playing and a guy like Allen playing as well as he's playing, it's really hard to just get a stop. Like, I understand these are NFL players, but it's really hard to get a stop. And we can't just sit here and be lazy and say, oh, the defense should have got a stop. In this instance, they should have because of the time. But still, it's so hard to get a stop. I do think they need to tamper and change up those overtime rules. I don't know what the right way to go about it, but I do think that they do need to change it. Maybe just like a 10-minute, you play it all the way out. Only in the postseason, by the way. This should not be it should not be changed for the regular season, but in the postseason, I think they need to change something up with that.
Yeah, so I think the argument is like if you let it go on for too long, it'll give too big of a disadvantage for next week, or you might get some player injuries.
That is the argument.
And there's this weird thing that I've heard people say before that like I kind of apply to a bunch of different things is that if you got a bunch of people arguing on one side for an issue like this, and then on the other side, when it comes to like games or any type of rules situation, usually the rules kind of right where it needs to be, right in the middle, because you got so many people on both sides of it. I really don't think there's a perfect solution for it. I mean, if you go to the college method, they honestly could have went to like 12 overtimes and just shot it out, to be honest. Yep. You would just be having a never-ending playing situation there. If you do the extra 10 minutes, who's to say they don't tie again? Like I said, it's going to come down to who's got the ball at the end. They were just so hot that I really just don't think anyone's going to score. Yeah. Stop scoring them. It sucks to end the game on a coin toss, essentially. But at the same time, you're right. The 13 seconds happened. No one talks about your Falcons one because they blew the 28-3 lead. So that everyone talks about that instead. I think it's a terrible, it's terrible it happens. But in the end, there's really no good solution for it because you're just going to drag out playing for so long that it could just be a battle of attrition. Like, you don't want that to keep going. And then all of a sudden, one of the quarterbacks gets injured. No. And then that's what happens. Or if they got injured and somehow that team won, then you got them in there next week without their best player. Like, you got to cut the game off at some point. It's not perfect, but I think it's probably going to be about the best way to do it. It's better than what it used to be, where you just go and kick a field goal immediately. Like, at least you have to get a touchdown to end it. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. I think it's kind of about in the middle. I don't really think there's too many improvements you can really make to it, to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't think the NFL will change it. I think that they understand that, and that's why we haven't heard change after all this outrage before, and I don't think it will change. Moving back to this game now, there's so much that happened in it where it's just so hard to break it down. The first thing is, what comes to mind is obviously the phenomenal play by Allen and Mahomes. Second is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is a freaking track star, bro. That man is so fast. And for him to have the audacity to put up the 2 fingers when he is behind someone. I mean, dude, you've got to know you're fast, and you've got to be real confident in yourself to do that. That play that he made where he just ran across the field like that was one of the most simple but most amazing plays I've ever seen. Most simple because he's literally just running a slant and then going down, but because it was so fast, because he outran everybody in the secondary and most of the linebacking core, it was incredible, man. It was incredible. That guy is unreal.
Yeah, dude, they zoned that off, and he just ran a drag across, and the zone is there for him to get tackled, like you just gang tackled, and he outran like 6 tackling angles.
Yeah, Poyer was right there, and he just went right around him, dude. It was incredible. It was nuts. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Second, I do, and I hate to criticize in a game like this because, first of all, Josh Allen deserves no criticism. He did every little thing he could have done. I mean, that 4th down when he had to tie it up in the 4th quarter, I think when they scored the first time with like a minute or something left, that 4th down where he eluded 2 sacks and then ran around and then got the first down, like the guy is just tremendous. So my one thing to Bills fans is, yes, you're sad in the moment, but at least you have that guy for the next 10, 15 years. So that right there should make you happy. I know in the hindsight right now it doesn't, but moving forward it will. The thing we have to criticize is Sean McDermott because, bro, Sean McDermott lost in the game. Look, just say what it is. First of all, the fact that they didn't squib kick the ball is just poor. It's just poor coaching, man. It's not understanding the rules. It's not understanding the game clock. Okay, so you know what? You forgot, whatever. You were in the moment. You thought you won. You forgot. Let that slide. Then you play prevent defense with Patrick Mahomes and timeouts. That's the thing. If they didn't have timeouts, then yes, that's what you do. They had 3 timeouts. Like, I don't know what Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier was thinking, man. I really could not think. I saw them and I said, what are they? I told Emily, I was like, what are they doing? They're going to let these guys get in field goal position. Like, I couldn't believe just by the way they were playing defense, you knew, oh, the Chiefs are going to do it. I mean, they should have pressed up on them. They should have wasted time with pushing their receivers around. I understand you're worried about the big play in that instance, but I was shocked about how a defensive-minded coach, mind you, in Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott went about the end of the game there.
Yeah, it was a strange one. I mean, it's always great that people like us just sit at home and watch it, get to criticize these coaches like that. But I mean, the truth is that was just terrible coaching at the end right there. We got on McCarthy about his offense, like taking as much time. Well, it's the flip side. The defense definitely gave up so much right there. Yeah, honestly, with the timeouts and the way Kelsey and Hill can clear space like they did, you would honestly rather them go to the outside so you can at least try to break on the ball and break it up better to waste time than to do that, or either at least try to blitz Mahomes with 1 extra rusher or something and try to get him to have to move and waste time that way. But they step back and prevent defense prevents wins, man. I've seen that with any of these Seattle schemes. They love to sit back in soft zone, and it always comes back to bite them. Like when they don't have the Seattle cover corner Legion of Boom talent. Yep. I do want to make this point as well, because we talked about it coming in. I think this offensive explosion also had a lot to do with, number 1, Tre'Davious White being out for the Bills, which we discussed leading up. But number 2, Tyrann Mathieu going out in the first quarter. I think that helped the Bills significantly, because then all of a sudden you got Sorensen back there, and you've got the weaker corners, and they don't have that QB in the back letting them know. And then on the Bills side, Tre'Davious White literally does lock up a side. Even if he doesn't follow Tyreek Hill, you're not going to necessarily stop Tyreek Hill. He can at least cover Pringle and all them on the other side and make it harder on Mahomes. Yeah. I think those 2 being missing definitely played a hamper on the defense. But you're right. This does fall on McDermott and Leslie Frazier. It's a weird way they played that. And I think it's funny. I was in the room with a bunch of Tom Brady fans, I would essentially say. I was with my in-laws and their grandparents and everybody there. They're a big Tom Brady group. So it was so funny seeing a few of them cheer against Patrick Mahomes and talking about how much they hate him. And then I noticed this up in New England, they hate Mahomes.
They hate
And
him.
I think that speaks to Mahomes' greatness
They do.
because the reason they hate him is they're scared he's going to take Brady's spot.
Yeah.
That's
So
all that is.
yes, so I can speak on that. One of my really good friends, you know him, his name's B-Ray, huge Patriots fan. I asked him before the game because I knew the answer I was going to get. I said, who are you rooting for? Because we have to remember here, you have the Bills who
Yes.
just whooped that ass against the Patriots and is a division rival. And then you have Mahomes. And he said, I want Mahomes to lose so bad. They hate Mahomes more than they hate a division rival. And it's because, one, they're worried, which that's crazy. No one's passing Brady. Like talent-wise, obviously, but accomplishment-wise, we got a long way to go before that. Two, I think the reason why is because they hate how hyped up Mahomes gets and how he's already being compared to Brady. They hate that, and that's the thing right there. So it's so funny that you pointed that out because that's something I noticed right away with some of my Patriots friends, which is hilarious. I do want to get to this real quick. The way that something I love to do, Sean, after, and I've talked about this on the show, after big games like that, I love to check the vibe of a average sports fan. So someone that's not like die hard like we are, that's like studying this game, writing down notes, listening to other shows react about it. So I was walking my dog and I asked my neighbor who watches football but isn't obsessed with football, just watches it during playoffs, what'd you think of the game? And the first thing he said was, that guy on Kansas City, what's his name? Mahomes? He said it just like that. That dude is incredible. And he said the way he sits on the bench and acts like no, everything's fine. Like when the Bills score with 13 seconds, everything's fine. There's no issue. He said he was so poised, and he said it reminds me just like Brady. And I love hearing people say that because you know they're getting something there. And if you hear an average fan say that, it just shows to how great Mahomes is. Allen is amazing as well. He deserves his props. But Mahomes is incredible, man. And one thing about Tyrann Mathieu, I think that the Chiefs, we'll get into this later on in the week. It's going to be interesting to see if he's available against Cincinnati.
Yeah, he's going to be very important. And, like, nobody really realizes exactly how important he is. They see him like make a tackle or anything because he doesn't pick the ball off a ton, but he's always where he's supposed to be and he gets everybody lined up. That's what's important about him.
Yeah.
And they really miss it when he's out. Like you can tell in the secondary, it's a big difference. On the Mahomes thing, yeah, it's very clear to everyone like that. I love to ask people like that as well. Like I said, I was in there with some casual fans that don't really watch as much, but then I had some diehards in there with them. And even though the casual fans that only really watch Brady or the Patriots up here play, they were all about it and talking about it. And even though Josh Allen, who they were cheering for, ended up losing, they're like, wow, that was one of the best games I've ever seen. That was amazing that Mahomes got him down there. So you can just tell how great he is, even to the average fan, even to the untrained eye. Amazing game. It was the best game of the weekend, best game I've seen. Just so happy to have been able to witness something like that. It was great.
No doubt about it. Phenomenal games. The Bills will be back. They will be back. And I think that's something the Bills and Bills fans should be rooting for next year is home field advantage. Because I think that played a big...
Don't lose to the Jags. Don't lose to the Jags.
There you go. Big part in that game. And I think we see the Bills try and go all out to get that home field for next year and have the Chiefs have to come to them instead of 2 years in a row, the Bills coming to Arrowhead. Let's move on to, in my opinion, the most disappointing loss of the season. And that's, I'm not a Packers fan. I'm a Falcons fan. I don't care about the Packers. That we're not rivals. I think Rodgers is great. But the Niners are good and they're on a roll. But the Packers should not have lost this game, Sean. And I'm going to get right into it with my thoughts on this. I was extremely disappointed in this loss by Aaron Rodgers. And I understand everyone's going to sit up there, the special teams were bad and all this stuff. Rodgers did not do enough to win that game. You scored 10 points. You scored 10 points and you're about to be the MVP of the league. That's not acceptable at home in a snowstorm, which means it is more, it's better for you. It is better for you that it's a snowstorm, okay? They're coming from San Francisco. Like, you are the one that has the advantage. It's more advantageous for you in the snowstorm. And you put up 10 points. That is unacceptable from Aaron Rodgers. And look, I think Aaron Rodgers is great. We all know that. I'm tired of hearing about how Aaron Rodgers is this amazing talent and all this stuff. I'm tired of that, man, because if he's such an amazing talent, which he is, it makes this loss even worse. The fact that he can't put together that talent in the postseason. Sean, he's an 11-10 record in the postseason. He's a losing record since that Super Bowl run way back in 2010. And all of these games, not all of them, but a majority of these games have been at his home field as well. It's unacceptable. And this is where I have to get into this part about Rodgers. What he did this year, he made it all about him, Sean. He made the story about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was the story, not the Green Bay Packers. And you can do that, Sean. You can do that. You can totally do that. And we've seen guys like Michael Jordan and LeBron James make it all about them throughout the season, but they back it up. And Aaron Rodgers was backing it up until he couldn't anymore. And he knew Rodgers is a smart guy. He's a very smart guy. He knows how this works. He knew that when you do everything he did, you create distractions. And once you lose, it then becomes an issue. And Aaron Rodgers was a major distraction from day one for the Green Bay Packers. But he was playing at an MVP level, so it didn't matter. People will continue to support you in those situations as long as you're winning. But they didn't win. They couldn't beat the 49ers at home in a snowstorm. He couldn't beat Jimmy G. So if you're going to talk all of that noise and you're going to make yourself the storyline all season long and you're going to make it seem like you're the victim, which is what he did all year long, you better win. Because as soon as you fail in moments like that, people are going to crush you and you deserve it. Aaron Rodgers has been completely selfish since draft night of last year when he leaked that stuff about him wanting out of Green Bay. And the worst part about it is he tried to make the fans believe it was the organization's fault. He betrayed the organization. He tried to make himself bigger than the organization. Oh, I don't have enough weapons. They don't treat me the way the Bucs treat Brady. I don't get enough say in the organization. Blah, blah, blah. And you know what it was never about? It was never about football. It was never about him with the Green Bay Packers playing football. And guess what? When you can't beat Jimmy G and the 49ers at home, well, then it all comes crashing down on you, and rightfully so. I have no sympathy for Aaron Rodgers. He did this to himself. He betrayed the organization, and I think everybody needs to move on. Everybody. And I want to say this real quick. When I say that he made himself the victim, I'm not talking about all this whole vaccine mess. I want to be clear about that because a lot of people will go there. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the way he approached this organization from day one of last year. He made the fans believe that the organization was the one in the wrong. He made the fans believe that the organization was treating him wrong and that the organization was doing him wrong. And what did they really do so wrong? They planned for the future by drafting a quarterback? Is that such a bad thing? They gave him Devontae Adams. They went and got Randall Cobb. They gave him all the leeway he could have wanted. What did they do so wrong? And at the end of the day, he let the organization down and he let the fan base down by choking once again. And I'm done with it, man. I'm done hearing Rodgers is great, Rodgers and this and that. All of it is unnecessary and just irrelevant until I see him win in the postseason. He has officially taken over the title that Peyton Manning used to have as Mr. Regular Season. That's it.
Yeah, I was excited to hear your take on this because I knew you were kind of throwing that hot fire out over text message on Saturday. So I was really excited to hear what you were going to say on the pod. And you're right on a lot of those. I can't really dispute anything you were saying on that. I was just going to throw a little bit of the blame game out there. I blame Rodgers a ton for that loss. He's second most. I know you're talking about special teams. That was atrocious, man. They had 2 kicks blocked. You can't have 2 kicks blocked in a
No, you
game,
can't. But it was
especially one
atrocious
for a
all year
touchdown.
long. Like,
But
fix it.
But yes, what you're getting at, so that's why I got to blame Matt LaFleur a little bit for not
Yep,
fixing his special teams,
that's
knowing
fair.
that's a weakness, and just relying on the fact that it's not going to come up in a big game when it did.
Yep.
Secondly, though, that is on Rodgers. Rodgers got to score more points than that.
Yes.
I don't care what you say. That secondary has been burnt toast all year, and Norman played a few times. You got to score on that. And I know Devontae is your main guy, and Aaron Jones is your guy out of the backfield. But you've been throwing to Lazard all year, man. You've got to throw it to him in his clutch situations. I
He
know
was
you're
wide
missing
open.
Valdez Scantling as
Everyone
your
knows
deep
by
threat.
now. He was wide open on that slant route at the on the last drive.
He was. And Valdez Scantling's your deep threat. I get it. He's out. Bakhtiari's out. Elgin Jenkins is out. I understand you're missing two of your 2 best O linemen and your deep threat. But you're Aaron Rodgers, man. You got to come through. You did do what Kayvon was talking about. You came in and you complained. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I picked them to win, because he did make it about himself so much,
Same.
like Jordan and all that. We picked them to win. I thought it was going to be their year because he was putting so much pressure on himself, which is something that Rodgers has never done in his whole career.
Never.
He's never been that guy before. He's always came in, and even when they lose in the postseason, he's always like, hey, we're going to get them next year. It's disappointing. Or, hey, we're going to fix some stuff. I'll be back next year. This year, he made it all about this kind of game, the last dance tweets, all that. I thought he was going to come out with how much he'd been talking and really go at the 49ers' throats and kind of win this game. But they were off, man, from the beginning. And I started to get worried in the first half when they didn't step on their throat when they could have. Jimmy G played awful in the first half. I mean, the worst quarterbacking I saw all weekend, and we saw Ryan Tannehill play. I mean, that first half from Jimmy G was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And when they didn't step on their throat, my mom's a big Packers fan, loves Aaron Rodgers. And she's a Packers fan because of Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I texted her and I was like, you got to be a little worried right here. You didn't end them right there. You didn't end them. And they're not looking like they're going to get the momentum going. And then that block punt happened. And after that, I honestly, it swung. I thought the 49ers were going to get them at that point. Rodgers needed to come through in that situation, and he didn't. And that is a big knock on him. And I'm glad you brought it up, because Peyton Manning was exactly the same way. Everyone, for as much as they love to go back and talk about how great Peyton Manning is, everyone forgets about how crushed he'd get after postseasons, because he had a losing record in the postseason too. That second Super Bowl, he was on his last legs.
Oh, yeah.
Rodgers is definitely taking that mantle. You're right about that. He definitely has proven that he isn't the clutch performer that a Brady or even a Mahomes now is. And you can't really lump Josh Allen into that either, because, good God, he played his butt off. Even though in the beginning, that is kind of what would happen to Rodgers when he'd play the Falcons and they'd give up all those points, or when they'd play people like that. The truth is, my mom summed it up best, and I just had to say it on the pod. And I'm sure there's plenty of Packers fans out there that feel this way. Every year she goes into the season hopeful. And then she watches the season, and they kill people sometimes. I mean, the 15-1 year when they lost to the Giants, they go in as these heavy favorites, and then something happens, and they just collapse in the postseason. And she's like, you know what? I'm just not going to look at the Packers anymore and think, all right, this is the year to win it. She's like, until they do it, I can't look at them like that and get my hopes up anymore, because she's getting crushed in the postseason. And I'm sure there's a ton of Packers fans out there that feel that way, because it's a shame that over the time they've had Favre and Rodgers, they've only gotten 2 Super Bowls. And it's a shame that on this Rodgers run, he's only gotten to the Super Bowl 1 time. And this one, while the special teams was a big part of it, he was 1B in the problem list of why they didn't make it. And he deserves all the criticisms he's getting today. That's for sure. He should not escape criticism at all, because you got to put your team on your back and win this one, like we saw Allen and Mahomes do in that game they played.
No doubt. So 2 things here. First of all, it's very fair to blame the special team because they were atrocious. The thing is, when the other team only scores 13 points, to me, all of that is washed, and it's all on the quarterback, who is your MVP. Like picture this. If that Chiefs-Bills game ended because the Chiefs blocked a punt for a touchdown, then at that point, you have to blame all of that on special team. You don't blame any of that on Allen, because he went out and scored 36 points. He did everything he could have done. If Rodgers did that and it came down to a special teams error, Oh, yeah, like that is not. But the fact that Rodgers, who has put up consistent point after point after point, MVP of the league, goes out and scores 10 points at home, that is an issue. And this is my question. I'll answer this just one word answers here. When Brady was down on Sunday and got the ball to go and tie it, did you have any hesitancy that he was going to score?
No.
No. When Rodgers and San Francisco were tied, wasn't down after the block punt, and he got the ball back with 3 minutes left, did you have hesitance that he was going to score?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Everybody that is not biased was sitting there saying, Brady's about to march down this field and score, and everybody was sitting there saying, is Rodgers really going to go 3 and out and give the 49ers the ball back here? Like, can he actually put together a drive? I'm bringing that up because Rodgers' name should never be compared to Brady's again. I don't even think he should be compared to Mahomes. I don't think he has done enough to be even in the conversation with Mahomes. Now, if he goes out there and wins another Super Bowl, then we can talk about it again. But right now, man, I'm done with Rodgers, and I think your mom's perspective is perfect. I think it's perfect. Like, I'm going to look at it this way, where if anyone tells me Packers are looking really good, I'm just going to say, can't wait to see how they do in the postseason. Like, if he stays on the Packers.
Yeah, honestly, I think you're going to start lumping him in with Peyton Manning at this point, because that's kind of how we talk about Peyton Manning. Just all-time great talent. Manning's mind, Rodgers' arm talent. I mean, just great regular seasons. One of the best players. Don't get me like we sit here and act like we're shitting on Rodgers like he's terrible. No, Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. It's just compared to those top 5 guys, it's hard to go up against it because of their postseason success. And the way you laid out that point is true. When Rodgers got the ball, after his body language, after the block punt, Rodgers feeds a lot on momentum, man. He feeds a lot on more than other quarterbacks do. Like your neighbor was talking about Mahomes being so even kill on the sideline. Him and Brady are like that. Rodgers definitely is a more momentum type player. Yeah. Like if they're down and they start to come back, and it's him that's scoring like 7-14 for the comeback, and they need another 7. I would be like, yeah, I think he's going to go score it because he's feeling good about himself. But in this situation where if he's up and then they come back and tie it, it's almost like he just gets down and it's like it's over. Yeah. So that's kind of where I was feeling on that. I do believe that's where it's going to be more of the Marino Manning type comparison for Rodgers than that in the end. Real quick, to put you on the spot, since we haven't talked about it much. Gut feeling right now before anything happens. What do you think happens with Rodgers after another team Packers retirement? What do you think?
So I don't think he retires, and this is my point. I'm glad you brought that up. Anybody that's ever played sports before and has any competitive ounce of juice in them, I don't know how they could possibly retire on that note. Like
on that one.
On that note, dude, he's too good of a player and too smart for him to go out on that game. That would eat him alive. I don't see any possible way he's retiring, but I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he's come back to the Packers. By the way he said, I don't want to be involved in a rebuild and all this stuff, which rightfully so. You're Aaron Rodgers. You shouldn't be. To me, that was a bunch of signs of, I'm not coming back. Maybe if they find a way to pay Davante Adams a ton of money, I don't know. Right now, hell no to retiring and to going back to the Packers.
So I actually think he's coming back that's my read on it. I think they're going to probably end up, I know he said no to a rebuild. I think what they're going to end up doing, I think they're going to tag and pay Davante. And I think they're probably going to find a way to get rid of number one of the Smith brothers contracts, and then probably restructure that O-line contract like Bakhtiari and them, since they're so close. Yeah. And maybe even Rodgers, after the way he kind of let him down in the playoffs, might restructure just a tiny bit to get Davante in. And I think he's going to go back because, number one, I think he's in his best situation he can be. And after he did all that talking, I don't know if he's really going to be like, okay, I'm just going to leave him high and dry now. I think he kind of got humbled a little bit in that scenario. And number two, Jordan Love ain't it, man. And I think the
No,
Packers are going to be a lot more desperate to sign him back because they're like, oh, we made a mistake with that
they
pick.
know that.
And even though he's been shitting on us about it, like he's kind of right on that one. We made a mistake. So I
Yeah.
think they're going to do everything they can to get him back. But on that note about the retirement, I don't think it's a retirement thing either because he's not going to leave it on that with his like worst performance of the
Yeah.
season. You're right. But now we can move on to Brady,
Wait,
who's
real
got a
quick, I
lot of
want to say one more thing. One
okay.
more thing. Like you just there's no possible way he's going to retire on that note. It would eat him alive. He's too competitive. But one thing that I have written down here that you said that I want to just say really quickly because I want to mention this because I just killed Rodgers and I want to be fair. And you said something that's so true. Rodgers is not usually like this. Like what you said is so true. He doesn't usually go into the season and make it all about himself. Like he's not that type of guy. But this year, for whatever reason, he did do that. He made it all about himself. The story was him. And again, we've seen guys do that before. We've seen MJ, we've seen LeBron do that before. And when you do it, you've got to show up and go all the way. You've got to. You can't, and if you do lose, it can't be on your watch. And the fact that he made it all about himself, the fact that he tried to turn the fans against the organization, and the fact that he made it look like he was the victim, and then he goes out and plays that bad of a game, that's a no-no, and that's why he's getting killed, and he deserves it. That I just wanted to end it on
Okay.
that. We can move it forward there.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
completely,
right.
completely agree on that, and that's extremely well said on that. I was going to say with the retiring talk with Rodgers, we can move on to that Brady game because that was a great game as well,
Yeah.
and that's a little bit of a different one where it's like, oh, would Brady retire on that type game right there too? So that we'll get into the Brady retirement talk after we break down the game a little bit. But I'll tell you what, I said I watched those two games Sunday with a room full of Brady Patriot fans, so
Yeah.
that's the old Patriots fans that live up here, but also just love Tom Brady because of what he did for them in New England. I'll tell you what, that was a hell of a game, but the Rams almost choked that thing away, and I was sick sitting there thinking about it because, as I said on the pod last week, I wanted the Bucks to lose so the Jags can go and interview Leftwich for my sanity.
Yeah.
But I was feeling sick, man. The Rams did everything they could to lose that game, and I know Brady gets all this credit for these comebacks and remaining calm in that. But if he'd have came back and won that game, that was completely on the Rams
Yeah.
because Brady played about his worst half of football he's played with the Buccaneers since he's been there. And then to come back after that, mad props to Brady and that staff, but the Rams has got to do a better job of holding on to the ball because 4 fumbles is unacceptable. I loved how the game ended. I think Stafford came out and actually was a killer for about the first time in his career. So I have to give props to Stafford for coming out and just gunning them downfield, getting that field goal. But man, what a game. And the Rams, they were feeling like the best team of the weekend almost for a while. And then they just fell apart. They got to clean that up. But I like this Rams team a little bit moving forward, how they played out. How do you feel about that game?
Yeah, so a couple things. The Rams almost pulled a Falcon. You know, they got really close, 27-3, 28-3. They almost pulled a Falcon. So luckily to Matthew Stafford. Stafford deserves
Two
hella
Matts,
credit.
two Matts.
Yeah, right. And they're good friends too. So they could have really gone through that tough time together. Stafford showed up, deserves so much credit for that final drive. I want to know what Sean. Look, I'm all for loyalty. Like I'm all for trusting your guy and throwing him out there. And the Akers story is a phenomenal story. But what is Sean McVay doing, running him back out there after the? I mean, dude, the first fumble. Then they go to the second fumble. He has one hand on the ball. All you need is a first down. Everybody since a little kid is taught hold to in the most important times, 2 hands on the football. Akers was running with one hand on the ball. Ndamukong Suh just reached up and stripped it right out. It was simple. Like I couldn't believe after the first fumble. Like I don't know why he didn't go with Michelle. I get it. It's all about being loyal. I get that, but this is to go to the NFC Championship game, McVay. Like you almost cost your team the game by keeping him out there. He was atrocious at the end, dude. He did nothing. I mean, he did nothing the whole game, really. And it's a great story, so I hate to bag on him, but the fumbles were terrible. And Cooper Kupp fumbling it. Sometimes I just feel like when people are playing against Brady, dude, Their
They
hands get tight.
they like they scare themselves, man. It's so
I'm
weird.
serious, man. Your hands start to sweat. You get a little bit tight. You know things are over there. And once one thing starts to unfold, it just unravels. Stafford came up big, but bro, what in the world was of course now I'm blanking his name, defensive coordinator for the Bucs.
Oh, with Todd Bowles,
Todd Bowles doing running a cover zero blitz.
Cover zero. Hey, Winfield's a baller, but yeah, that's too much to ask.
No,
right
dude,
there.
I don't care how good. I don't care if you have the best safety ever back, Troy Polamalu. Like, dude, you cannot run a cover zero blitz when there's a couple seconds left. You go to overtime. Like that to me was for someone as good and as studious as Todd Bowles. That was shocking to see.
Yeah. On the cover zero, sorry. I think on the cover zero, he was just trying to get the ball out of his hands quick because I think it was like it was on third, wasn't it? I believe.
I think.
Yeah, I think it was on third. Either way, I think he was just trying to get the ball out of his hands quick. I think Winfield just overran for some reason, and Cup just ran by him. That was a weird. I hated the call and I hated the execution of both. Yeah. So that's a weird one on that. You're right on how these people play against Brady. And I was sitting there, man, in that room full of Brady fans that just watched his whole career. I'm like, man, is this really going to happen to me right here with all these people around me? Like, is this really going to happen? Like, he's going to come back with this, like, random comeback. Like, I got to miss it when it happened with the Falcons game. I wasn't around any Patriots fans at the time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, is this really going to happen right now in front of me? And then all of a sudden that cover zero happened, and I was like, you left Cup twice. 2 straight plays you left Cooper Kupp. I couldn't believe that. That was shocking to me, especially because Todd Bowles is actually really good. Like, him and Leslie Frazier both had huge, and McDermott too, because McDermott and Frazier kind of co-do it. But the both of those three had huge defensive gaffes this week that is just surprising for great defensive coordinators in this league.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I was very, very shocked about that. But again, I do want to give a lot of credit to Matthew Stafford. He recognized the blitz. He said it in his post-game comment. He said, they're coming at me. He threw it up. Cooper Kupp. By the way, that is such a hard catch to make. Did you see how long the ball was in the air, bro? Like, as a wide receiver, it's in the air. It's over the shoulder. You know that what's on the line. For him to make that catch, I know a lot of people think, oh, he's a wide receiver. You got to make that. It's a hard catch to make in that moment. Congrats to him. Congrats to the Rams. They deserved to win that game, but towards the end, they were acting like they didn't want to win it. And they almost gave it away to Brady, which would have been an absolute disaster for McVay and Stafford. So I'm glad that they didn't blow that game. I want to see this 49ers-Rams rematch. I want to see if McVay can finally get over the hump. One thing now to go on to the retirement here, and if you want to go back to the game after that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say 2 quick things. The Akers play you were talking about, because I didn't address it. I really forgot about it for a second. The Akers thing, I think the reason he was still in is because that first fumble, I mean, it was kind of fluky. Let's be honest. Like, he kind of rolled over. It was about as close to a non-fumble as you can get. Like, it was like split seconds. So I think McVay probably was like, okay, this dude, like, it was a very random fumble, you know?
Yeah.
But the second time you got to hold it on tight, going through there with Vita Vea and Sue, knowing you're running it. You got to have 2 hands on it.
Have to. In that moment.
Behind tight in 2 hands, man. Like, you got to have that. The second thing is, I wanted to go over this because I kind of wrote it down here. The things that had to happen for Brady to even come back right there are so, like, 1% impossible.
I texted this to my friend B-Ray, who's a Patriots fan. This stuff only happens to Brady. It only happens to Brady.
Yeah. So, number one, Cooper Kupp, one of the NFL's best receivers, led the league in all receiving categories. Fumbles, which he rarely ever does.
Ever.
Then, after that score, they sack fumble Brady at midfield.
Yep.
The center, who hasn't done it all year, hikes the ball over Stafford's head, and Stafford slides past it. So twice they get back and sets Brady up down there. Akers had to fumble, and all that combined with the fact that from about 40 out, Brady throws a touchdown to Mike Evans on Jalen Ramsey, who's
Who
covered
never
in
gets
yellow.
beat
Dude.
like that.
Never gets beat over the top like that. The things that had to go through that, if Brady had won that, that would have been the most improbable game. Like maybe even more so than the 28-3 because they had the sack fumble on Ryan at least.
Yeah.
And it was more so of just the Falcons not burning clock in that one. Like they had to have turnover after turnover happen in this game. It was insane. I mean, great game after that, but you could go ahead with your retirement point on that. I had to point that out because I wrote it down. I was like, this is unbelievable, man.
Yeah, no, phenomenal game. It's just I couldn't believe the things that happened, but I'm happy for the Rams for pulling it out. On the Brady thing about how you mentioned to start off, would Brady really want to leave on that note, kind of like what we were talking about with Rodgers? I think it's completely different because Brady has already accomplished so much. It's not going to be a bad taste in his mouth to end on that note, in my opinion. I understand Brady's the most competitive person in the world, and maybe he will find a way to put a bad taste in his mouth. But I personally think at this point, it doesn't really matter. He's already won so much. He's already accomplished so much that he almost led another crazy comeback. Well, he did. He tied it up after being down 27-3. It just came up short after that because of the defense. Like, to me, it's apples to oranges trying to compare that. It's completely different. But I do think Brady comes back for one more year.
Yeah, so completely agree on the first point like that. That's exactly true. I think it's because I mean he led the improbable comeback. It was the defense that blew it for him, so he takes no blame there. And yeah, he might look back at that and be like, God, I played so bad in the first half. His offensive line was getting killed and stuff like that. So he might just have that little bit. I think this is going to completely come down to him and Giselle.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if I had a gut feeling right now, I think Brady and her probably talk it out, and Giselle's like, okay, go do your one last tour. Say, this is going to be my last season. Go out there, try to win it all, and do your little tour around each stadium you go to. Have all the fanfare because he does deserve it.
He deserves it.
He's been the GOAT. He deserves to go out even if he doesn't go out on top next year. He deserves to go out with everyone kind of watching him and knowing and getting a chance for these people that want to spend their hard-earned money to go see him play one last time live or anything. So I do think he plays the one more year. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think when he announces this is going to be my last year, guys. This is what we're going to do. So I'm with you on that one.
I agree, and he deserves that. I think everyone as a football fan, even if you're the biggest Brady hater ever, I think you would want to see him kind of have a Kobe Bryant farewell tour like Kobe had in the NBA. You know, when you're someone that great, you deserve that type of walk away to me. And also, him leaving would it would be a big ass cap hit on the Bucks. So like if he left this year too, so like that's enough. I know that doesn't really matter to him, but I think that he's gonna come back one more time. I think Gronk will come back one more time. I think they do it one more year. They go all out. They try and win it one more time, and then he's out. Would I be shocked if we're wrong and he does retire? I won't be shocked, man, because I've never heard Brady talk the way he's been talking on his Let's Go podcast, how he talked after the game. I've never heard him talk like that before, and that makes me realize he is seriously contemplating retirement, so I wouldn't be shocked, but how we feel like we know Brady, the way he's been his whole career, it makes sense for him to come back one more year and do one last bit.
Yeah, and I think that also him coming back would probably focus that team a little bit and be like, all right, we got to get in it and pay attention and do everything for Brady here. He's going to definitely lose some of the pieces if he goes back to Tampa.
Yeah.
Like he's more than likely losing Leftwich as the offense coordinator. But I mean, you have Arians. Arians going to call the plays. He's probably going to lose a few receivers here or there. But I just think I don't know. I think he's going to want to come back just that one more year. If Giselle's okay with it and they talk about it, I'm not saying it's all Giselle's choice, but she's going to have a big impact on the decision.
A huge impact.
And if they come down to it and she's like, all right, one more year, I think he'll come out, announce it, do the one more year thing. I mean, even Big Ben got a send off this year. So you kind of expect that to be the case. That's what I look for in that. And I was like, that's kind of where I'm at on it. I think he's more 50-50 than Rodgers is more 100%, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess, I'd lean more like 55-45 Brady coming back.
No doubt about it. Rodgers is for sure coming back. I would be absolutely shocked if he didn't. Brady, I think he is, but we'll see what happens. Let's move on to the last game of the playoff weekend, which was really the first game, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals beating Tennessee Titans in Tennessee, upsetting the number 1 seed. Both number 1 seeds go down. Joe Burrow and this Cincinnati Bengals squad, they just keep going. They keep trucking along. They're not taking no for an answer. What are your thoughts on that win and where Cincinnati's moving forward at now?
I mean, what a gutty performance by Burrow, man. He was getting absolutely killed back there. Just kept
I mean,
standing
dude,
in and making
quick,
plays.
if someone came up to me before the game and said, this is how the game's going to go, Burrow's going to get sacked, what was it, 8 times?
Nine. It was a
9
playoff
times?
record.
Bro, I would have put everything I had on the Titans to win. If I heard Burrow was going to get sacked 9 times in a game, I would have said there's no chance the Bengals are winning that game.
Yeah, completely agree. I think you got to look at Burrow too after this performance. He's got that it factor, man, and it's that you can't explain it type it factor. Like he's just Joey Cool, like they call him. Like he's just cool back there. No matter how many times he gets hit, he just shakes it off, stands back up, looks down the field, and finds Jamar Chase wide open to go for another 100 yards in the playoffs. I mean, those two together, man, what a combo. I mean, for years to come, what a combo those two together. They kind of came out and just won this game.
Higgins was phenomenal this game too.
Yeah. I got to give props to that Cincinnati defense because they hung them in there as well.
Yeah.
They came out, they put a plan on Henry. Henry didn't look like he had quite the burst, if you know what I mean, but he was still there running hard. Like, I don't know if he was 100%. He was more like 85, 90 in my opinion. Like, I don't know if he could break away as quick.
Mm-hmm.
But they came out and had a plan for him, and they definitely executed it, which I was surprised with that Ogunjobi. I thought they were going to really struggle. But, man, they put a hurting on Tannehill with those picks. I mean, that's a Ryan Tannehill problem and a Tennessee Titans problem going forward. If you're the Titans and you go out and play that game and you watch Tannehill play and then you watch Burrow on the other side play and then Sunday you come home and watch Allen and Mahomes play, I think Tennessee probably at this point kind of realizes, ooh, we're in trouble with this $100 million quarterback we have. And I wouldn't be shocked if – I don't think they're going to be able to get out of it this year. But I wouldn't be shocked to see him try to move on maybe next year. So what are your thoughts on that game and especially on this Ryan Tannehill future thing? Because I don't think they can win a Super Bowl with him at quarterback. That's for sure.
Yeah, so real quick. Oh, my goodness. Sorry. LeBron just yammed out. Big time steal out of off Harden and yammed it down. This is my thing with Tannehill here. First of all, Tannehill was atrocious. But Sean, you'll even admit this. That was his worst game all season.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Like,
but I mean, it came in the biggest moment, though. That's the same with Rodgers. If we're going to crush Rodgers for that, that's on Tannehill,
that's right.
too.
And you're spot on. And he screwed up in the biggest moment, and he was terrible. I mean, Rodgers just didn't make throws. Tannehill actually hurt the team with his throws because of the interceptions that he made. Rodgers was just missing. He wasn't processing things the way he usually does. Tannehill was actually making some really dumb throws. I mean, the fact that he was throwing to Westbrook or Roberson there.
Yeah, Westbrook Akina, I think that's his name. Yeah.
Westbrook Akina in the final seconds like that on a drive when he was double teamed.
When you have A.J. Brown and Julio outside.
What are you doing? And that catch that A.J. made was for the touchdowns. Like, what? If you're going to force it on a double team, force it to A.J. Brown or Julio. What are you doing forcing it to him? And no offense, but, like, that's just bad thought process. But Tannehill, it's unfortunate because if you look at the Titans, man, they have every little thing that you need to win a championship and to be a good team for a long, long time, except the biggest thing, which is the quarterback. I mean, bro, they have an absurd defensive line. They have a great running game. They have, in my opinion, a top 3 coach in the NFL in Mike Vrabel. Like, they have such a good football team. There is no excuse to lose that game. And Ryan Tannehill played the worst game he could have played, and they still lost in the final seconds. That shows how good that team is. So I don't think they're going to overreact and do anything with Ryan Tannehill this year. But if he comes out next year and they have another phenomenal season and they don't make it to the AFC Championship game or to the Super Bowl, then you're right, man. They're going to look to move on. And that's when Matt Ryan will be available. I wouldn't be shocked one bit if they go look at a veteran like Matt Ryan or someone like that, if they can keep that roster intact and go for 1 year with Matt Ryan or someone like that to lead them across the way, because they're going to be attracted. Like, quarterbacks will want to go play there with that type of roster that they have. There's no doubt about it. It was a if I'm a Titans fan, bro, I'm very, very disappointed. I didn't have as much hope as the Packers had, so I'm more disappointed if I'm a Packers fan, but I'm very disappointed if I'm a Titans fan, man, because look, Joe Burrow is a beast. That Bengals team is a beast, but the Titans are the better football team. Like, the Titans are the better football team. They're better coached, but it came down to the Bengals had the better position, the most important position. And one thing about Joe Burrow, you know what's phenomenal to me about him, man? This is how you know you got it. When you are starting to give swag to the kicker, where they're coming out and saying before they kick it, we're going to the AFC Championship game. Look, that might have to do, he might just be a swag kind of guy himself, but that comes from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has put his presence across this entire team where they feel comfortable enough acting the way they're acting. That's all Joe Burrow, man. He is very special. And one other thing I want to say here is, Sean, if they were to go to the Super Bowl, we don't see this in the NFL. And to be honest with you, no, I'll be so happy if they make it. Good for Bengals fans, but I'm kind of hoping they don't, for this reason. You don't see a team go straight up like that. Even Mahomes and them didn't go straight up. They went up, they lost in the AFC Championship to Brady by a hair, and then they came back next year and hit the pinnacle. You never see in the NFL a team just go straight up. You just don't see that, bro. Name a time that it happened.
No, that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. So if they're able to do that, man, wow. Wow, wow, wow. And they might be able to, but this team is special. Joe Burrow is special, and Cincinnati is going to have a lot of wins in the coming years with that guy.
Yeah, for sure. And spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the preview at the end of the week. Spoiler alert, it's not going to happen. I mean, the Chiefs are going to beat them, but it's okay. It's a great story though. I love that because, again, Bengals fans, Jags fans, we have a lot in common. Bengals have been to the playoffs a lot more, and the Jags have won the 1 year they went. Yeah. But I love a team, man, that comes out of nowhere that's kind of looked like as a dumpster fire, as you can see in the hashtag. Kind of looked at it as a dumpster fire, to come through and really turn it around like that. Joe Burrow's that type of quarterback, and Jamar Chase is that top 5 receiver they needed. Those two together, the way the kicker plays, Bengals are a fun team to watch. I think they're America's underdog. Everyone kind of wants to see them go far. I know a lot of the people that hate Mahomes or hate his brother are going to really want the Bengals to win. It's going to be a good matchup. Like I said, I just think the Chiefs are going to have a lot, and we'll definitely get into that a little later in the week. I guess the last thing you want to go to the last thing we want to talk about. Last thing we need to talk about, and we were going to do the pod. We were talking about doing it yesterday, Monday, or recording it here on Tuesday. But I'm glad we waited till Tuesday because this big news happened.
Yeah,
Sean Payton stepping away from the Saints this year, more than likely to pursue TV. That's kind of the vibe he gave off.
Yeah,
but then he'll be available after that if you really want to think about it. But I mean, what a huge move. And what a really franchise-changing move for the Saints, because I'll make the argument now. He was the reason they won those games they did with that quarterback deficiency they had. They're losing their whole identity as a team, really. Yep. They're over the cap by a lot. The Saints are really going to fall apart after this. I really don't see any coach coming in and saving them. And they're in the no man's land in quarterback as well. You can't really understate how great of a coach Sean Payton is.
Oh, he's
one
amazing.
of the best there is. With him moving out of that, now Brady also either probably retiring next year, but maybe even this year. This really sets up for the Falcons or the Panthers who listen, but mostly the Falcons because the Panthers are in a weird situation themselves.
Yeah.
The Falcons need to really take advantage of this. And I know you talk to a lot of their fans because you're a big fan yourself. I want to give you the floor How do you feel moving forward? Do you think y'all can take that mantle? Because this is going to be the most up for grabs division we have in the league. It went once Brady's gone. Now that Peyton's out of it.
Yeah. So this very well said and put out there by you. This is the best news that the Falcons have had in a very long time, and it has nothing to do with anything they've done. Sean Payton and look, the Saints are the Falcons' rivals. Like, people want to say the Panthers, all that. The Falcons and the Saints are one of the biggest rivals in the NFL. Like, it is a big-time rival. We respect Sean Payton so much that we cheer when we hear this news, because that we're genuinely scared of Sean Payton because of how good of a coach he is. Look, that franchise was a disaster before Sean Payton and Drew Brees got there. And Sean Payton turned that franchise around. Mickey Loomis is still there. He's still a really good GM, but I don't know if I would not be shocked if they go back into a rut for a couple of years after this because of their situation, and they go into a rebuild and let some of these pieces off. For the next couple of years, Falcons fans have hope. We have a lot of hope, and it's time to put pressure on our organization to get it done. Because, like you said, to me right now, man, the Panthers are a disaster. I mean, I think the Panthers are a mess right now because you got Matt Rule, who's all over the place. You don't know what you're doing at quarterback. Their offensive line is bad. Their defense is promising. And then you also have a coach that's an owner that's very neurotic, and like, he will do whatever, whenever to get a win. So if they go out and get Deshaun Watson, well, then that changes everything. But if they don't, and they're sitting around still trying to mess with their quarterback, the Falcons will be the only team that has an established, in my opinion, surefire Hall of Famer. In others, a borderline Hall of Famer in Matt Ryan. And when you still have a quarterback like that, and you still have some pieces that the Falcons have, it's all open for the Falcons to run with it and really have a chance to be a front runner in this division in the first time in a long time. I can tell you, I was talking to Falcons fans all over Twitter today. I was even talking to some Panthers fans. There's a lot of hope right now in the NFC South because of this news. And it's a credit and respect to Sean Payton. It's respect to Sean Payton, how we look at this team and go, Taysom Hill? Like, what? And we're still worried about them because that's how good Sean Payton is. He walks away, that team goes to a 4-win team, man. I'm serious. That team is not good. 4 or 5-win team without Sean Payton. Because of how good he is, respect him, there's a lot of hope in the NFC South right now, especially with the Atlanta fan base.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I think you said it best on that. He puts so much fear into those fan bases that you're actually concerned when you say, oh, he might have Jameis Winston back next year. Like, they might be the favorites to win the division if Jameis Winston's back because they can handle the Buccaneers so well. That's kind of where you're at on that. I mean, mad respect to Sean Payton. I do want to get into his future a little bit. The way his press conference went, I think he's going to go the TV route. We have Amazon coming in. Every network would hire him tomorrow if they could. He's going to be that good of an analyst. The thing is, do you think that maybe after that, one of these teams, not the 10 that's open right now, since the Saints are now open, obviously they'd be out of it. But do you think one of these teams that are borderline, a Cowboys that have McCarthy that could go out? I know everyone connects those dots. Maybe I like to throw this one out. Maybe the Cardinals. Maybe he likes Kyler a lot. Maybe he graded Kyler high. Do you think maybe if Cliff was to go from the Cardinals, he would go there? Do you think he comes back after a year, or do you think maybe he takes a couple of years off, surveys the landscape then, and just handpicks the quarterback he likes most, or the situation he likes most, almost like a John Gruden did? Do you think he maybe does some ESPN quarterback stuff like John Gruden did for segments, and then just picks the young quarterback he likes best out of that?
So really, really phenomenal questions and points by you, because first of all, I want to hit on this. I would be absolutely shocked if the Cowboys hired Sean Payton. I know everyone is putting that on there. Not this year. He's taking this year off. Next year if they did. And this is why. Sean Payton, if he comes in there, Sean, he's going to want control. Do you see Jerry Jones? There's a reason why Jerry Jones hires guys like Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett. There's a reason why these have been his coaches since Jimmy Johnson has left, because he doesn't want a guy like Sean Payton to come in there and take full reins, which means full credit when they win. And boy, if you give Sean Payton that roster, he's not going to be able to make Dak that much better, but he's going to be able to make the pieces better, which is going to make the team better. They will be miles better than what they are. But Jerry Jones won't be able to put his ego aside. So I don't see that happening. What I do worry about with Sean Payton is I heard Jay Glazer, who's really, really close with Sean Payton, do an interview yesterday. Forgot what show it was on. And Jay Glazer has a book that just came out on mental health and how he struggled with mental health. And he said that Sean Payton has been struggling with mental health since this pandemic. He said this year was incredibly hard on him. It's the biggest reason why he's walking away. I think Sean Payton is too good of a football coach for him to walk away for good, but that's something we do need to monitor. He is clearly worn out, bro. He's tired. He's worn out. I do think 1 year off will help him out, and I do see him coaching again in 2023. Where? I'm not sure. I like that Cardinals call, but I don't see any chance he's coaching this year. For all those people that think he might coach this year, I don't see. I could be wrong. I could eat my foot tomorrow, and but I don't see any chance. With the way Jay Glazer was talking about, he really needs some rest. If he needs some rest, then we'll see what happens a year down the road.
Yeah, so completely agree. So I think these are the most likely scenarios for me. The Cowboys are a little out of it for me for what you said.
Yeah.
If he doesn't care about personnel control, then by all means, he can go. But Jerry still likes that glory, man.
Yeah.
But at that point, too, you got to wonder with Jerry's age if he might just be willing to give up a little bit of the shine just to try to get one more Super Bowl in there. Yeah. That's going to be a weird situation. I think that's least likely out of the three scenarios I'm going to list. The most likely to me, especially if it's the year after he takes a year off, is the Cardinals if Cliff goes. Because if Cliff goes, Kime goes, and I think Sean Payton would literally just pull Jeff Ireland there with him.
Yeah,
like that would make the most sense. You would just have your personnel guy with the Saints, like him, Mickey, and Jeff all work together so closely and everything. You would just bring your top personnel guy from the Saints with you, and you'd have Kyler if he feels that way about Kyler. I think the next most likely thing would be he does these quarterback segments like Gruden did at ESPN, and then makes a decision on it that way. Just by meeting all the young guys, you're still close to them in the draft. And I think a more far off distant one is he waits it out and sees what the Saints do within the time that he's still under contract with them. And if they somehow pull a quarterback, I think it might be likely he would come back to that, especially if they start underachieving with the head coach they have. And I mean, Gail Benson obviously loves them. Mickey Loomis would still be there. I think there's a decent chance he would actually go back to them if they do figure out the cap and quarterback situation. I think that's second most likely to happen behind him just handpicking a young quarterback. And if I had to make a call right now, it's the Cardinals.
Bro, please do not tell me that the Saints are about to pull an Indianapolis Colts and completely tanked for Bryce Young and then Sean Payton comes back. Is that what you're about to tell me, bro? That they're going to literally
that was what I was leaning a little bit.
For Bryce Young or something, and then he comes back. Oh my god.
And then all of a sudden Sean Payton's feeling a lot better after a year off.
Geez, that would be awful, man. I think he's done with the Saints. I don't ever want to hear that idea again, Sean. Let's keep that out of the stratosphere so that
the distant future argument. They tank the right year and get Arch Manning and bring him back.
No. He plays in Louisiana too. No, we don't want that at all. Get that out of here, bro. Sean Payton, go to ESPN, show everyone how smart you are, do your thing, and then come back next year and go coach for some team.
That's not the Saints.
Way away from the NFC.
That's not the Saints or the Panthers, right? Or the Panthers.
Yeah, he wouldn't do. He loves New Orleans too much. He wouldn't go to anyone in the NFC South. If he did, that would be wild. I don't see that happening. But yeah, man, good stuff. Anything else?
No, I think we're good on that. We're going to do our draft show. We're going to record it tomorrow, and I'll get it uploaded. I think we haven't really talked about it for sure, but I think we're probably going to do top 5 quarterback, running back, wide receiver. I think that's probably what we're going to do. That'd probably be best. That's what a lot of people like. And plus, we'll hit on any other random topics like that. Because, again, we have 10 head coaching openings. It's kind of hard to project anybody anywhere until these get filled. So we're probably just going to hit on some position stuff like that. And at the end of the week, we'll have our preview for the AFC, NFC championship games. everything's moving right along.
No doubt about it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know your thoughts on the show. 5-star review. We really appreciate it. It really means a lot to the show, guys. We're trying our best to grow. We've been putting a lot of work into it. We need your support. For all of you that have been supporting us, it means the world to us. Thank you. Keep it up. And we really want to get to a point where we have so many questions coming in. We'll do mailbag shows weekly and all that type of stuff. So thank you for all your support. This is the Money Down Pod. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. That is Sean White. I'm Kayvon Izami. We'll talk to you tomorrow for the NFL draft preview.